Well, hey everybody, it's Chuck. Welcome back. Well, we've got a new software version. It's not the one we thought we were going to get this week, but it is a new software version. This has been out a few days. I just got home last night from a 4-day trip out flying and a few other days doing some personal stuff. But we are on FSD 15.5.6.2. And to my understanding, this is only available on AI4 right now. But in addition, the last few weeks, there has been a new navigation database updated, and I am not sure if that is the brand new navigation database number. It looks like it might be. But anyway, look out for a new navigation database that might give some new kind of behaviors around stop signs and stoplights and things like that. But in any case, the primary change on this version that I understand is a point release that uses these driving profiles in city streets mode on streets above 50 miles an hour. And that was clarified from Ashok, the VP of Tesla AI. So basically they've extended the highway mode into city streets, but only where the speed limit is above 50 miles an hour. I do have a few sections of road today like that we should be able to do, but let's do a first impressions drive real quick. Let's knock out a couple unprotected left-hand turns, and let's see how this version does. All right, here we come up on our it's a stop. Thank you for all the feedback on that. I'm going to continue calling it that. And we need to wait. We need to wait. Okay, there's just a little bit of a wait here and a lot of a wait from the right. So we should go to the median. Let's see if it has a question mark today. No question mark at all. Nope, not at all. But it needs to stop right there. And it needs to wait. It needs to wait. Okay, wait. Don't pre-roll. Okay, that was perfect. You could hear me thinking out loud of everything it might do, but it did a good job. So I think that I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to go ahead and disengage and do one more of those, and then we'll come down. And there's our notice. Roll up or down to adjust max speed. See, look, I'm in hurry mode on a speed that's 50 miles an hour. So this is a great first example that has changed with a little bit of an alert. All right, let me do one more UPL and we'll be right back. Okay, here we are again. Second unprotected left-hand turn. Let's see if we hit the traffic right. There's our NHTSA stop. We need to get a good creep here. Nice slow creep, unlike the Cybertruck right now. It's a nice slow creep. Okay, we got a gimme here on the left. I'm gonna call it a small gap, but boy, that car is moving. Don't go. Oh, it's gonna, okay, well, it did it. I would have waited. It was one of those scenarios, and that was perfect. Really, really good. The reason I would have waited is because it was wide open right behind it. So it did it just fine. It gave the commit it needed. I wasn't worried about it, but it was one of those human scenarios. I'd be like, you wait one more car. You got a lot more space. He won't have to hit his brakes. Okay, I programmed a U-turn here. And here we are again in hurry mode. And see, I can move the speed down. And see, when you move the speed max changes. We're going to play with that a little bit more on this drive, but just so you know, there I am, a 50 mile an hour speed limit sign, and we have speed profiles in city streets. All right, unprotected left-hand turn, a little bit of a situation here. Okay, now we cut off this truck. This truck was here first, but we have the right of way. It's going to take it. It should go. Come in, commit. Okay, the truck waited. Very uncomfortable there. It did it. The truck created a human scenario that it stopped in the middle of the road rather than a human-like commit. I understand why it did it. It's just the way that these neural networks are responding to the vector of other vehicles. We had the right of way. We didn't aggressively take it. When we slowly took it, that truck said, "What are you doing, buddy?" He started moving. I was already in the road. Once he started moving, I stopped moving, and there was a fast approaching car coming in the traffic, so we both needed to get to work and get our business done. So that's kind of my point, is once you commit on a U-turn, you've got to give it all you've got, because now you're in the road with lanes of traffic, and you got to kind of rejoin that flow, especially on this road where it was 50 miles an hour back there. Okay, enough on the U-turn. Not a great response there, but it did do it. And it did do it safely, just it created some confusion. So here you notice we're at 45 miles an hour, so we're below that city street's 50 mile an hour threshold, and we do not have the speed profile listed in the upper left. And when I move the speed button, it does move the max, but it doesn't have a speed profile. So you can see I can go up to 75 miles an hour here. It's doing auto set speed with a max in there. It's not going to my speed that I have set. I do want to give the team some feedback. Some people have said they didn't like the fact that the speed disappeared. I like this UI implementation. If I move the wheel, it shows it. If I move the wheel by 1 mile an hour, it shows it. gives it a few seconds, and then the display reserves the space and it goes away. I think that's a very good, reasonable implementation of this iteration where we are right now. Okay, we're in the far right lane, and we got to get to the far left lane. We got 0.3 miles. I'd be getting in the middle lane right about now. So this is where that earlier and more natural human lane changes ought to be coming to work, but it's not here. 0.2 miles. Just show you, here's our route. 0.1 miles. Now granted, it's got 2 empty lanes and it's going to be able to go all the way over. If it was taking into account that it knew it had all of that space, okay, but in any more traffic than we had right now, I bet it wouldn't have been able to get over if it waited to 0.1 miles to get over. I say that a lot, but believe it or not, it amazingly does a pretty good job finding its way. But if we're going to call them human-like or in earlier lane changes, that wasn't one. In my mind, 3 lanes of traffic. Now, this intersection is ending up going to be protected. We do have an interesting dynamic of this pedestrian over here that might interfere with the fact that we're going to be turning into that lane. If he stays in his sidewalk or off the pavable, drivable surface, it probably won't matter one bit. But we're just waiting on a green arrow. He's crossing the road. So I don't think it's going to be an issue. We're going to be crossing the railroad track, kind of in the vicinity of where he is. And there's our green arrow, a little slow commit, but it was fine. Crossing the railroad tracks, let's see if it slows down any. It slowed down a little bit, slowed down 1 mile an hour. Pedestrians on the other side of the road, so no factor there. It is always typically slowing for those railroad tracks as if they were speed bumps, but there are times that I just don't feel like it's treating them like railroad tracks. It's treating them like any other sort of road, sort of hazard. All right, here we got a creep here past our stop sign to see if it's clear, and it is. And then this is Birkenhead Road, where we can just kind of see how it's handling narrow roads. Nice slowdown for that speed bump. Really, really good. I don't know if that's map data or not, but it slowed down for that one very good. In this camera on the lower right, you can see my right wheel and how close it's going to the edge of the drivable space where there is no curb. And you can also see kind of how the UI does this kind of gray, fuzzy depiction of the drivable space. Okay, we are going to get a car interaction here, it looks like, right around the vicinity of this next speed bump. And it's not slowing for that speed bump at all. Okay, there's a camera snapshot just to give the team the data there. Don't know why it didn't slow for that speed bump. I was kind of hoping that the map data was going to include more of those. And it should, okay, now look, we have the right of way here. Well, we didn't have the right of way necessarily, but actually that was fine. That car definitely had the right of way, but we had already proceeded past a stop sign and we had kind of a median to wait. So I correct that. That other car had the right of way, but we waited in the situation where I probably would have pressed the accelerator and gone ahead. And it did slow down for this speed bump, so they're still hit or miss. They all have paint markings on them, so not exactly sure what to say there. Okay, left-hand turn into a suicide lane. You can see that car up in front is doing the pause in the suicide lane. We did get the vehicle doing that on the last time we attempted this. I don't know if it was accidental or not, but in this situation, we need to wait for the traffic from the left. There is no traffic from the right at the moment, so it's pretty straightforward that it would be able to go straight across without any pause once our gap from the left opens up. Little bit of traffic starting to come from the right. Okay, we got 2 more cars from the left, and it's probably going to be a roller. It needs to commit now. All right, there's our commit. Is it going to go? And it did just fine. So it did that just fine. Didn't need to wait that time. It just kind of, waited its turn. And correcting that, getting our map done. Hasn't yelled at me too much yet. And we'll get in there. Now see, here it's doing earlier lane changes. So here we are, a good distance from our next turn, 0.4 miles, and it chose to get in the middle lane. And maybe it's getting out of the passing lane is what it's thinking it's doing there, rather than getting over to the right lane. So what has happened over the last few days? Quite a few people concerned about Hardware 3. I don't really want to say you should be too worried about hardware 3, but I definitely understand how you feel, because the communication coming out of Tesla, specifically that last update from Ashok's team about the timelines, kind of really made us feel like hardware 3 and hardware 4 are going on different branches now. V13 should be coming out soon, and it's going to be dedicated to hardware 4's capabilities instead of kind of dumbed down for the hardware 3 capabilities, with additional full camera resolution of the hardware 4 cameras, which are 5 megapixel instead of 1.2. Lots more resolution, which should, to me, mean a lot more range capability if they're using all those pixels. Should be taking it right here, blinkers on, everything good. Additional bandwidth. Bandwidth is directly proportional to taking in more cameras. They have to take in more bandwidth if they're using full 5K cameras, so that obviously makes sense that it needs to be able to handle more bandwidth. And that may be the largest limitation for hardware 3, is that it just can't handle the bandwidth for the AI 4 cameras. So they got different models in order to do that, rather than have a harmonized model that tries to do both. Not sure. I'm talking out of my lane a little bit there, but very interesting scenario. This car backed out into traffic in a gap. Obviously, he lives on a road on a main street, and had to do that. Okay, let me pick up this point where I am here on Ashok's note and talk about this speed school zone here. It is flashing right now. I do not have a lead car. School zone 15 miles an hour when flashing. Holy smokes, it's slowing down. Is it going on? Is it going to stop? Oh, don't stop. Okay, it's pausing. Okay, now it shouldn't go in school zone. Guys, that was an acknowledgement of a school zone. I don't, it didn't say stop, but it almost stopped. It didn't completely stop because it didn't do a NHTSA stop, did it? So that was the first time I have directly personally seen acknowledgement of a flashing light that represented a school zone. It was a very short school zone. It was basically the crosswalk. It had, 15 miles an hour when flashing. It went well below 15 miles an hour. I did not have a lead car controlling me. I did have a car adjacent to me that it could have been inferring from. But hey, Tesla AI, you need to look at that clip just in case it has any use case there. If you've been testing school zones, if that's off of map data, I don't know. But step in the right direction. Not sure why you went below 15 unless you saw a pedestrian in the crosswalk, which there wasn't, but you didn't stop to 0. So nice job. All right, that's a highlight clip there. All right, so we're proceeding down this road, and I do want to highlight one more time, we're not above 50 miles an hour. Got a yellow there and a nice deceleration curve there. I'm glad it didn't run and it didn't overbrake. That was really good. And we do not have the speed profiles displayed, even though they're set in the settings. And while we're here, I'll just remind you guys one more time. Autopilot, I'm in hurry mode for the moment. My max speed offset is set to 40%, but I have control of that with the thumb wheel. And whenever the detected speed limit, that's an interesting one. It's probably this speed limit sign here that is controlling that gate. Not like, like if the speed limit's 45 and it's doing 52, I don't think you're going to get the speed profile. That would be an interesting little corner case to check there to see if it's truly the speed the car chooses or a posted speed limit. I'm sure it's the posted speed limit. But the fact they were able to bring it into city streets and use it in the 50 mile an hour or faster traffic implies something that I wasn't really clear on, is how city streets and highway stack are truly harmonized for one model to rule them all. The fact that they're able to use these speed profiles like that makes it feel like it is one more model rather than an end-to-end highway model and an end-to-end city streets model. Just one example to think through how speed profiles might give us that little lens into how they're kind of growing it. All right, there's our green light. A little bit of slow off the ramp there. That was fine. I don't know. I feel like I'm a little bit more paranoid on that acceleration profile because of the Cybertruck being extra slow right there. Now the Cybertruck is still on a 12.5.5.2 branch, so I'm not going to hold it responsible for this. I need to edit my trip here and continue on our route. And here we'll be joining Interstate 295 and then merging and then going for a little bit of highway mode. Light is already yellow in the distance. There's our beginning of deceleration there. Nice long, a little slow. this is an interesting, when I taught my kids, in a last minute lane change, that was interesting. I didn't feel like the car was going to do that. That was a good time to do it. When you teach your kids how to drive and you're like, why are you using the accelerator when you can see there's, a red light up there? And then it's that context window for a human is really what it is. How much memory do you have? How much can you talk about or think about outside of your current, what you're doing moment? When you see a red light way off in the distance, there's no reason to accelerate. Keep your current speed, coast, possibly even start to do regen braking, and start, thinking about slowing down rather than, continuing your current speed and then have a sharper decel curve. That is probably a driver profile setting. There are people all over the world that, love to accelerate to the stop and then, and do that. But personally, I think it's better on the brakes. If you're using brakes, not sure which is better for regen, whether a slow gen or a faster gen is better. Interesting comment maybe some of you can make about whether regen is better coming from a higher speed, quicker, or a longer, slower burn on the motor. Okay, let's see if it goes in the right lane. It looks like it chose the right lane. There's nobody to compete with, but there's the blinker, nice. And hurry mode is already on. So I'm on the ramp and hurry mode is doing its job, which is perfect. And if you see here, there's no speed, and I'm like, well, what's my speed? I could do a quick, there's 85 is set, 84. I'm just gonna leave it on the max for now because this is a short little burst. Blinkers, changing lanes. Now in hurry mode, I think it should want to get all the way over to the left. I'm not gonna, expect any of these speed profile changes. Behaviors have changed in this build. I do think that now that I'm behind this trailer, it's gonna want to get over pretty quickly in hurry mode, but it's not turning its blinker on because there's no room. Now there's a gap right there and boom, it jumped in it. That is definitely a relatively new behavior. Before, it used to put its blinker on to ask for permission to other drivers to get over. Now it's sort of waiting until it sees a gap, and then when it wants to go, it turns the blinker on to show its intent of actually moving. Interesting thought there. Tell me if any of you guys have noticed that also. All right, our profile should be good there to join Interstate 10. And it's staying in the middle lane here in hurry mode. It's going 67 and a 65. I got a big truck right next to me. There's no room to get over, and I'm gonna be turning right here in a second. So this is exactly where I would probably be, not getting behind these slower Now let's get in the left lane. There we go, right behind that truck. So did you see how it waited on the gap and then it put its blinker over? It's definitely trying to achieve 85 in my mind. It's using that as its guide for hurry mode. Now here's my 0.9 miles getting back over for our lane change. So this earlier lane change is definitely at a different distance than on city streets. Now you could argue, well, when you're going 65 miles an hour, distance can't be used relative to city streets, right? 0.1 miles when you're going 30 miles is a different amount of time than 0.9 miles when you're going 65 miles an hour. I get that. So maybe the team or the model is using some sort of time-based calculation to say, I have, 30 seconds to get over. I have 45 seconds to get over based off of the speed. That would make sense to me. Rather than using a distance, it would feel much more natural to use a distance for your lane changes based on your current speed. There's my blinker, expecting it to go over. Get it? Okay, that was not a good lane change. It was late, and you see me fishing for my camera. That camera's in different locations based on the screen. So it actually crossed over the gore there a little bit because it didn't jump over. I don't know why that did that. That wasn't perfect. The blinker was on, so I understood its intent, but it didn't jump into that lane like I thought it would have. That's interesting. What do you guys think happened there? It's like you're in my little co-pilot seat here with me while we're driving today. I can't see and think of everything at the same time, so we got to think about this stuff after the drive is over. All right, it is actually 8:20 a.m. and I'm in hurry mode, so it's getting over in this left lane, and it doesn't look like we have any rush hour, so we're not going to be doing stop and go today on this drive, which is great. We get to see something different. And now I'm in hurry mode, and I'm all the way in the left lane, and let's see how unconstrained it will go. Is it going to go straight to 85? 72? Okay, so I'm gonna go into standard mode, the right thumb wheel, hurry, standard, and as soon as I hit standard, it got out of the left lane. And it's keeping this, okay, 71, slowing down a little bit maybe. So standard, it jumped out of the left lane and slowed down definitely a little bit. And if you see, my speed is still set to 85, so the speed doesn't change with the profile. It's how the profile manages the speed. And just for an example, I'm gonna go to chill, and when I put it in chill, it probably would have put its blinker over immediately had that little car not been there. But I'm expecting as soon as we pass that car, the blinker's gonna come on, it's gonna get into the right lane. Let's see if that's what happens. There's the blinker, straight over into the right lane. So I think I understand what it's doing with these profiles and where it wants to be and how it's managing it. And see, again in chill, my speed is still set to 85. And then we'll do the exact opposite. I'm gonna go all the way to hurry, and there's the blinker already. Sorry, I got a little bug in here. And it's going straight over to the middle lane. And let's see if it jumps into the left lane. Blinkers on, left lane, yep, I'm in a hurry. And you know, Ashok and Phil Dewan have both answered comments on X in the last week about how these modes are sort of not for you and I driving and supervising to manage speed. They gave us the analogy of pretend like you're in the back of an Uber and you're yelling at your Uber driver. You know, hey, can you hurry up? Or hey, you know, chill out, I'm not in a hurry. And that Uber driver's behavior on the drive he's giving you would be appropriate to that. I expect that in a robo-taxi environment, these profiles will be selectable by the passenger in the back somehow. Probably gonna be some big buttons on there, hurry, standard, and chill. And I'll even bet that they kind of humanize those words a little bit more in easy speak to describe it to someone that doesn't understand it. You know, you might be able to check a button that says, I'm in a hurry. And then now here we are at 1.1 miles in hurry mode, getting over for our lane change at Stockton Street. You might be in the back seat and say, you know, I don't know, how would you humanize standard? I'm not, you know, I don't care when I get there. You know, you can maybe say something like that. Or maybe the chill mode would be a button that says, you know, please drive safely and slowly. Something like that. I don't know. They're probably not going to use hurry, standard, and chill. They're going to humanize it a little bit for a passenger experience. But the logic they're using on these profiles, I think, is going to directly translate to the experience for robotaxi. It makes sense to me. And possibly even unsupervised Model 3 and Model Y when they get to the point of achieving that. Okay, very aggressive slowdown there. Kept the distance. Merge behind me was a little bit difficult. I'm in hurry mode and it jumped out of that slow lane very, very smoothly. Guys, that was a good description of these modes and how they fit and how it manages the traffic. I had already started getting over to the right lane for this turn, but that traffic slowed down so much and it saw an opportunity to go around it. It made the decision to go around that slower traffic, even though it had already begun the process of getting over for a lane change. Think about that for a second, about what it just did there. That was a very mature decision for any driver. I probably would have just stayed where I was because I didn't want to make the decision of how to jump out into this faster traffic. It made the decision very safely that it could do that. So anyway, really good job there. Hopefully I can make that a highlight clip and everyone can see how that worked. All right, here we are at this I-10, I-95 interchange. And over time, I've had a problem here with all of these lanes and it not really knowing what speed to use. It's usually been going too slow. You see, it thinks the speed limit's 50 here, but nobody's gonna go 50 on an interchange unless you're in traffic. It got over to the right lane for a lane change. It did it smoothly. It doesn't feel overly slow. Now, if I needed to be in the left lane to go up to the airport or something, I need more time to see what those speeds it would have chosen there. All right, now look, we are at 50, and notice that we're still in the profile. Let's see when the speed changes and that hurry changes. It's probably gonna be in the transition to city streets as soon as it detects a speed other than 50. That's what I'm expecting. Green arrow, so it's gonna continue. As soon as it jumps on this road, the map data should say less than 50. 35 mile an hour sign right there. Boom. Okay, so as soon as that sign changed it, that hurry mode went away. So did you see that? That starts to link the map data, perhaps visual perception of speed limit signs, and when those profiles are available. So that's kind of a visual description of this changing of city streets into the speed profile modes that maybe some of you that are watching this and waiting for this software can perceive exactly how that function is working now. This is a temporary behavior. Make no mistake. They're going to lower that speed down. I hope all the way down to at least 30 miles an hour, because those speed profiles need to have that mature logic in things like school zones and neighborhoods and things like that. They're working so well. I really hope they can lower it all the way down to maybe even any speed. Okay, nice smooth lane change here to come over to the right. I've got a yellow light, which gives me the opportunity of yielding without stopping. It took that opportunity because the traffic was still at the light stopped. Very, very nice and smooth there. Guys, this drive has been amazing. And the fact that those speed profiles are extending into those other ranges and we can see how that is evolving is really, really exciting to see. I was distracted there while we were on that highway mode, and I got away from probably one of the best subjects that most of you are wanting to talk about, is back to that letter from Ashok and the AI team. It wasn't directly from Ashok. It was posted from Tesla AI, which Ashok is the VP of AI. There are many people on that team, and I don't actually know the person that is running that account. But there was a lot of conversation in there about hardware 3 and the description in the words about going to hardware 4 with the full capability, the Cortex training, and the additional bandwidth. The one other thing that they added in there was this context window widening up. The context window in the world of AI, and here I'm going to say this is not my lane. We do need to get up and in front of this car and out of this turn lane, and it did it very quickly. It's sort of like the short-term memory of information it can use in order to make its decisions with the model. So if you're thinking about a large language model and you're having a conversation in a chat window, the context window is kind of like how far back in the conversation can I remember in order to continue to add value to your additional questions. With driving, the context window is a length of video tokens, and I'm not going to be the expert that can describe what a video token is as compared to an LLM token. An LLM token is sort of a fancy letter to an alphabet for a large language model, but it can be a string of letters including punctuation and spaces. For video, it's got to be some sort of bite-sized chunk that it can continue to remember. But the context window is how long of a window does it have in order to make its decisions. So one of the things I want to think about here as we turn into Memorial Park's parking spot is, is it how far in advance is it predicting? How far in the rear is it remembering? Is it remembering a kid with a ball running out in front of a car and it can't see it anymore, expecting the kid going to get the ball after it comes out of blind view? To me, the context went, okay, very unnatural behavior around that car that is parking. It stopped like it thought it was going to come out. Maybe it's fine that it did it that way, but it's acting very jerky here in a spot where I think it should just kind of keep on going. All right, so I got it returned there. Okay, all right, pay attention to the road, Chuck. I've got it all set up, I think. Yep, this is exactly what I wanted to do. The context window to me really matters in things like, pedestrians walking in front of large trucks expecting the pedestrian to come back out, right? It needs to remember a few seconds ago there was a pedestrian with a vector of this. Don't forget that. That's a simple example that maybe everyone can understand. But one of the complexities about this context window that we need more information on, or we need somebody smarter than me to describe, is does the additional, I don't know why it's stopping, 5 miles an hour here, and I've got a destination. Is it think I'm still on? I deleted that waypoint. I don't know what was going on there, guys. I don't know. Pedestrians here, we're going around. I feel like that acted like it was at my destination and it was waiting on, and then it kind of said, oh, we don't have a destination anymore. That's what that felt like. But anyway, the context window, I want to talk a little bit. Okay, we're going back to the context window after we do this turn here, because the turn is around this oak tree. I love this scenario, where it decides to stop, how it decides to join traffic. There's our NHTSA stop. It needs to creep up, but not so far that this oak tree blinds its view here. Right here is the best view to the left and the right. I got a lot of traffic coming from the left. You know, it's slow traffic, so we could jump out and try to squeeze into a gap. But now I've got a car coming from the right. And this car from the right just kind of closed the window. So this is a really, really good example of this turn that perhaps I haven't had this much traffic in a while. So actually watching it wait is really good. So now I'm clear to the left, but I'm solid not from the right. And it didn't budge. It's not creeping out to where this tree blocks it. I hope the Tesla AI team sees this video and uses this turn. This is a very, very good example of how to manage that creep that you have to do because of the B-pillar location, right? All you can do to move your side views, okay, perfect. Really, really good job there. It waited the right amount of time. It didn't adjust its creep too much. It wasn't impatient. It just waited. Slow cross traffic is easy, guys. This is not an unprotected left-hand turn with high-speed cross traffic. It's a completely different animal, so I don't want to pretend like it's the same, but the way that the car acted there was really, really good. Okay, back to the context window. I told you we were going to talk about that. So now that they've talked about AI4 on V13, having the full 5 megapixel cameras, additional bandwidth probably to handle that camera stream, and a lengthened context window to absorb more tokens and remember it in its memory, think of it like that, is it just taking in more tokens with the same amount of time? Because we got so much more data, I'm not sure that we're actually getting a longer in time context window, but just more data in the context window. But because there's more data, it's actually just as long or maybe even shorter. So something to think about. Does the increased bandwidth, maybe more video tokens coming through on AI4, does that lengthened context window get eaten up by that additional data, so it's not actually longer in time? Anyway, a long conversation. We could probably have an entire space about that to talk about, you know, how this context window is going to be implemented on V13 with respect to time, now that it's taking in more data from the AI4 cameras. Anyway, love to hear some comments below on that one. Maybe we can talk about it sometime later in the week. And maybe get some other smart folks to talk the AI language a little bit more professionally than me. All right, have I intervened yet? I don't think I've touched anything yet. We've been just talking the whole time, and it's doing it so smoothly. I love these speed profiles, and I like right here, I don't have the benefit of speed profiles, but it's doing nice solid 30 miles an hour. It's not doing 28. It's not doing, you know, 40. The speed there was good. I'm not saying this is fixed though, guys. There's been a lot of other feedback from other folks, specifically Stephanie and Chris, Dirty Tesla Family, talking a little bit about where the speed profiles are being used. It's working really, really good for them, but that the accelerator is still needed to kind of nudge the profile. And that is another thing. So, you know, even in hurry, standard, and chill mode, the accelerator can still be your friend while you're supervising still, in order to nudge it to a speed perhaps closer to your max faster, rather than let the model get up to it. And then once you nudge the model up to that speed with the acceleration that you've chosen, it'll kind of maintain that. So it doesn't feel like you're just accelerating and then that's going to go back to what it wanted before. It feels like you're influencing its speed decisions, and then it kind of takes what input you've given and then rolls with that, which makes sense to me as the way to implement that. All right, we got a little left turn, getting into the right lane quickly, left jog. It should be protected with a green arrow. This intersection sometimes gives some interesting quirks, but without a lead car or anything like that, it should be fairly straightforward. And a nice smooth blinker into the right lane. It could have merged directly into that lane, but instead it went to the left and used a blinker to get over. Okay, we could see a right on red scenario here at the emergency room entrance of the hospital. Nice slow creep. It's all safe, and then it proceeds, so a nice right on red. Another beautiful Quicksilver. Looks good. Hey, we just passed a police car that made me think a little bit more about the Tesla AI model. The Tesla AI note they posted on X about the upcoming V13. They talked about a new function and even a new sensor, arguably, with taking in audio input somehow so that the model can respect emergency vehicles. So what that means is that somehow it could be the interior speakers, the same speaker used for our voice inputs. It could be that speaker, microphone, or it could be an external speaker. Maybe they're using the pedestrian speaker or any other external speakers that might be available as microphones. I don't know. Maybe we can get someone at Tesla AI to comment on what microphones they are using in order to get this input. But they're taking an audio input in order to further respect, honor, navigate around emergency vehicles. So how many times have you been at an intersection and the first thing you hear is the siren, but you can't see the emergency vehicle anywhere? Somehow V13 is going to use that as an input in order to begin its function or behavior on handling emergency vehicles. Don't know if it's going to start pulling over without even seeing a vehicle. I don't know how it's going to do it. In some parts of the country, when you hear and see an ambulance, people are like, dangerously getting out of the way so that vehicle doesn't even have to slow down. In other parts of the country, they're just sort of like, they'll squeeze over a little bit and they expect the ambulance or the police to perhaps drive over the median in order to get around them. There's a lot of different scenarios there, but that is a new function, capability that we have not had yet. And it kind of does go back into this. Is that sensor fusion? Is that the same thing as having a radar or a LiDAR? Pedestrian here, went in the crosswalk. Very good example that hadn't come up very often. This is one of those pedestrian crosswalks. We do not stop unless there's a pedestrian there. And it did a really good job there. Nice one. Is adding this audio input to the model the same thing as having a LiDAR, a radar? I don't know. I don't think it is, but I'd love to have a conversation about whether or not audio is effectively sensor fusion, which Tesla has been shying away from, saying vision only. Can you say vision only when you're using audio as an input now? I don't know. I think it's a fun conversation. You guys know me. I'm a sensor guy. I'm not saying we need Waymo sensors, but I'm like, if this needs to be superhuman, let's acknowledge that, all humans have is vision. Let's make it better than human. Now, that isn't the way you scale things as cheaply as possible, no doubt about that. Adding sensors adds cost, but maybe we can find some cheap sensors. And maybe a speaker or a microphone is a cheap sensor, and they added that one. I personally think ultrasonic sensors are cheap, and they took those away, and I still am not happy with Vision Park Assist like I was with my ultrasonics on my AI3 Model Y I used to have. So I miss my ultrasonics, guys. It's no comparison on the way I use them for parking and precision. On the highway and stuff like that, it really didn't matter. It gave you those colored arcs and stuff. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about backing out of a garage or a driveway with a post or a hedge or another car. It told you how many inches you were away. Now I'm having to interpret this fuzzy color graph that doesn't have any units associated with it. And, half the time it tells me to stop when I get out of the car, and I have plenty of room. So that's my point, is ultrasonics were better in those tight parking scenarios, and in my mind, they were cheap sensors. On my Cybertruck and on the Robotaxi, they also have that parking camera. That is a cheap sensor, another camera, but it's not even being used yet. But I expect that parking camera will be integrated in some way into the model. Not exactly sure how yet, but I think it will. Okay, coming up on our little mini traffic circles here, yielding, very smooth. The Model Y has never had an issue with this. The Cybertruck is a little bit tricky because its turning radius models are not perfect yet, and it kind of clips a curb sometimes or gets too close. But it's obvious the Model Y understands its space and fits into it very smoothly and nicely. Truck coming around, he's probably going this way. Are we going to wait to see though? No, we just kind of rolled with it. That was fine. Yeah, it did a good job there. You guys, this has been a perfect drive, and look at my camera here. We're at, 35, 40 minutes of filming. I had the cameras rolling before time, so my actual roll time is not accurate. This has been really, really, really good. The way that they gave this 0.2 release to the early access team, like myself and a few others, and it hasn't gone wide yet, to me implies they are building somehow a solid build that they're going to put everyone else on while the V13 train starts. I thought this was going to go wide on the last point release and the one before that, because it's been safe and good. They're making it better, but to me, this feels like the new 12.3.6 or the new 12.4.1, where most of the fleet is going to spend their time. I do think they're going to get this on hardware 3. I don't think it's going to happen as soon as it does for the AI4 cars, but I do think that there will be a version of 12.5.6 for hardware 3. It's going to be a separate build though, and probably have some different behaviors. Maybe we can get out and find and see some comparison differences. But I don't know. Let me jump onto a different subject. So yesterday I saw the Cybertruck and some AI4 Model Y ADAS drivers on my street. First time I've caught ADAS drivers that were definitive. And when I say definitive, I catch Teslas driving all the time on my street. You know, if the ADAS drivers are jumping into new cars, I might not see them or recognize them as ADAS drivers. If they're coming back in the same cars that I've seen before and they do these patterns to where they do the exact same thing like 15, 20 minutes apart, I kind of know it's not my neighbors with a car, and I kind of recognize the ADAS driver cars. The cameras I have can't see the license plate, so I can't go down to license plate identification. But just trust me, when I send those pictures, I'm sort of doing my own analysis. Am I sure this is an ADAS driver, or could I be wrong? There's always a chance I'm going to be wrong on some of the cars, but I typically use their behavior and patterns to make sure that it is an ADAS driver, not just a neighbor with a Tesla or even a Tesla loaner. But the fact they're out driving again means something new is coming. We're all hoping it's V13. I don't know if it's V13 or not. It could be a 12.5.6.3. We just don't have enough information. The best information we have was Ashok saying that V13 was going out to internal customers at the end of the week. That was last weekend. So employees is what that means, might have a version of V13. Now, just because we haven't seen any leaks does not mean that V13 isn't out there. And for those of you that don't realize, Tesla is watermarking release notes with VIN numbers of employees that get these internal builds. So the employees that might have this are, you know, probably very, very hesitant to leak anything, which is fine. But just recognize that that is something that's been going on a while with some VIN numbers actually in the release notes. Usually we do hear some whispers that it went into internal customers, even if we don't get the release notes or something like that. But, and I haven't heard of any, maybe someone else has, but so far I haven't heard of that. But the fact we see ADAS drivers out here driving and validating something, this could be a V13 build they're validating, or another point release on this. It doesn't look like it's a hardware 3 validation, guys, just because of the cars I'm seeing. Maybe we'll see some of those ADAS hardware 3 cars, and we'll be able to have some excitement around that. But at the moment, that's just, I'm reporting what I see. I'm trying not to make any judgments as I put the information out. Well, we are 1 mile to go on the end of a 40-minute drive, and I haven't intervened or disengaged once. I did see a couple areas where I was uncomfortable with that U-turn. I'm probably going to post that, you know, just so everyone can see it. It did it safely. You know, the only thing I would have done to fix it was to commit, not stop in the middle of the road and reassess. I know that isn't a great example because there are times you do need to stop and reassess, and maybe the car thought that was one of them. That's not what I felt in the situation. I'm just very nervous around high-speed cross-traffic, especially when I have oncoming cars, of doing anything that involves stopping, because getting up and going again takes time. And as a safety driver, I can't always perceive when you're going to get up and go next. So once you start slowing down, my radar is going to go up and my patience is going to go down for letting it go and see it. But if you keep a nice smooth acceleration and I feel the car continuing to move, that's fine. But the act of slowing down and reaccelerating with high-speed cross-traffic coming is difficult. All right, I don't know if the speed limit is going to change again one more time before we take this forward-facing unprotected left. I don't think it does. I think it's on the other side of the light. But one more time, just showing the speed profiles seem to be speed sign limited, and this should just be a roller. So Hey, if you've been here the whole time with me, you know, I think we're at 40 plus minutes. Thank you for doing that. Maybe even give a shout out in the comments for how many minutes you made it to the end of the video. Leave some comments below. Let me know what you think. This is my first impressions drive for 12.5.6.2. You know, I expect we're going to have some new versions on Cybertruck. And gosh, when V13 comes out, I know that's going to generate a lot of excitement for folks to get a first glimpse at that too. You know, park, unpark, reverse capability, and possibly even using your speakers as an input for emergency vehicles. That'll be fun to try to find a scenario to test. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time.